stop. And on the other hand, only he, some baseball pitchers, and Zach Edey, coincidentally, have been clocked going over 100 miles per hour this week. So, is this a story or not a story?
Well, we'll look behind the curtain for the audience. I did a totally scientific test yesterday when I first saw this news. I gave Kevin Wildes and Chris Broussard the facts on the ground.
Yeah.
Shedeur Sanders was pulled over for speeding in a 60. What's the speed he had to be going for it to be a story? Or what's the fastest he could be going for it not to be a story? And you guys both clocked in the mid-90s, which means according to our scientific test, this is a story, which is why we are doing it. Here is what my honest-to-God take on it is. It's not a huge deal, but it's certainly not nothing. And if you are in a spot where you need every tie to go to you, 101 certainly feels more than 9 miles an hour different than 92, which is what the person who was driving alongside, I guess, was going. Because if you watch the video, the 2 cars pulled over. He was friends with the young lady who was driving the other one.
Were they drag racing?
No, not racing at all.
They were behind each other.
They're like the one behind the other or whatever it was. Okay. And the cop said, "I'm not writing her up. I am writing you up." And he's like, "Oh, you know, I'll cut you a break there." There was also a weird spot. If you watch the video where he hands the cop a card, and the cop's like, "Oh, should have handed me this earlier, but I've already written the ticket." So I don't know if that was like a Monopoly get-out-of-jail-free card or if it was just hey, I play for the Cleveland Browns or whatever it is. But regardless, he got it, and then the extra news comes out. By the way, he just got a previous speeding ticket, which, again, we have no info on. It's not like, disaster, but it's not nothing. And driving 101 feels a touch too fast, even for someone who has a big, fast car. I think that's all fair to say.
Yeah, it's something. And what it does is it gives ammunition to all those out there. And he has a ton of supporters, but he also has a ton of detractors. And those that are looking at the briefcase with $1 million in it when you got drafted in the 5th round.
Legendary.
Those are looking at legendary, the platinum chain, all that stuff, and thinking that's not what you want from your franchise quarterback. This is just, whether you agree or not, I don't necessarily agree with that. But if you do agree with that, and this is another thing you can pile on him about. And like Nick said, let's just say hypothetically that Pickett and Flacco have looked good. We're keeping them. You know what? Because if Flacco gets hurt, we want a veteran, whatever. And it's between Dillon Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders. And they both are like, they've both looked the same, pretty much. They've both been the same in training camp and all that. You got to get rid of one. This is the type of thing that, you know what? Dillon hasn't had any incidents off the field or anything. Like, this could turn it against you. Now, Shedeur does have his name, which seemed to work against him in the draft, but I think that's a positive, actually, and the potential that, you know, he was great in college, obviously, and so he has some things working for him. I don't think this is a death knell by any stretch of the imagination. I don't correlate it to decision-making on the field, where he's been a very good decision-maker as a quarterback.
No, but it is decision-making.
But I just think it's something. It
is decision-making, and decision-making, obviously, on the field is most important for a quarterback, but off the field, too. And again,
most of the great ones you don't see doing this type of stuff. And here, think about this too. This is a franchise. Think of some of their recent quarterbacks off the field. Yeah. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, Johnny Manziel, Baker didn't really get into much trouble, but was immature. That was part of it. So they've dealt with this before. So you could see it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody in that organization is thinking, do we want another quarterback that's going to be getting in, having these issues off the field? So it's something that he's just got to be much more careful about.
I feel like it's just his first demerit, and he's had a perfect aced test so far. And, you know, Nick Saban does these speeches. He does like corporate speeches. I saw him speak one time, and that led me to watching like a bunch of like Nick Saban inspirational videos.
Oh, wow. You ready to run
Really
through a brick
good?
wall, buddy?
Roll Tide.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So he has one where he's just like talking to, it feels like he's talking to kids, but he might be talking to football players. And his thing is, you need to get into the and business and out of the but business. So it's like you guys are the same players, theoretically. And it's like, and he's good in the community, and he, tutors kids after school, and, he has aced his math test or whatever, and then you run the same, you have the same measurables. It's like, but he got a speeding ticket.
Yeah.
So it's just like stacking the ands, which I felt like and Shedeur was great with the media, and he does like volunteer work, and he showed up at that Boys and Girls Club. Like he's done everything perfect, and this is the first but that he's had in his, really since draft day to now, I would say.
Yes, and I will also say this, because I think I can't speak to everyone, but I can speak for myself, and I think a lot of young guys in particular, in their late teens in particular, drive like idiots. I think I don't want to say it's a rite of passage because it's literally the most most people at 50 years old, it's like, hey, what's the five most dangerous things you ever did in your life? Like 4 of the 5 are like random nights driving with friends when they're teenagers. You know what I mean? And so I think it's common but scary. I also think that it is not unfair to say driving over 100 miles an hour anywhere but the Autobahn, I assume, is a sign of some immaturity. I do think that.
It's really dangerous.
Just because of the danger for you and for other people. And what I will say, and again, I try to never be a public scold, but even if you have a car that can handle it and you are totally with it and everything, especially at 12:30 at night, which is when this was, other people on the road sometimes, they've been drinking, or they're sleepy, or they're the ones who are driving, erratically, and at 101, your ability to fix that and correct it is just so much smaller. So it is foolish. Like there's no way, it's not foolish the way, what Rashee Rice did. That's a totally different animal that we're talking about here. But it is foolish, and quarterbacks are held to a different standard. That's all fair.
Yeah, I think that's fair. That's why my wife drives.
I know, we make fun of KW, but that's why he's not.
I'm here going 45. I'm getting cited for going too slow. We broke 1 million. That's why we have the confetti on the desk. And coming up next, the Bud List, another celebration of motivation.
Indeed.